U.S. President Joe Biden has signed a raft of executive orders as soon as taking office this Wednesday, including a decision to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. Cuba hopes to produce 100 million doses of its Soberana or Sovereign 0.2 vaccine against COVID-19 in 2021 and immunize its entire population this year. Malian security forces fired tear gas at dozens of demonstrators in the capital Bamako this Wednesday during a rally against France's military role in the country. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. And the U.S. President Joe Biden has signed a raft of executive orders as soon as taking office this Wednesday, including a decision to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. The orders were aimed at reversing decisions by his predecessor Donald Trump, including the process of leaving the World Health Organization, ending the ban on entire Muslim-majority countries, bolstering environmental protections, and strengthening the fight against COVID-19. Biden told reporters in the Oval Office there is no time to start like today, stressing he was keeping the promises made to the American people and noting we are going to combat climate change in a way we have not done so far. As part of the measures, the new president installed a coronavirus response coordinator to oversee the distribution of vaccines and to extend a moratorium of evictions amid the coronavirus crisis.
Of the United States. Against all
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, who also took to work straight away after her inauguration, this Wednesday swore in 3 new Democratic senators, including Reverend Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff, who won 2 high-profile runoff races in the state of Georgia that flipped control of the Senate to the Democrats. Alex Padilla, the former California Secretary of State, was also sworn in to Harris' vacated seat. As Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris also now serves as the President of the U.S. Senate. And Joe Biden has been sworn in as the 46th President of the United States amidst a heavy security deployment and call for unity in his first speech as President. President Joe Biden began his inaugural address with a moment of silence to honor the more than 400,000 Americans who have died due to the novel coronavirus. He noted, "We'll honor them by becoming the people and the nation we know we can and should be." Referring to recent events, Biden called on Americans to overcome their divisions, declaring that without unity there is no peace. He also pledged that he will be honest with the country as it continues to confront difficulties, saying that leaders have an obligation to defend the truth and defeat the lies. As he did frequently during the campaign, Biden pledged that he will be a president for all Americans and will fight as hard for those who did not support him as for those who did. Offering his first address as President of the United States, Joe Biden called on U.S. citizens to come together as one nation in the face of the pandemic, highlighting the importance of unity to move forward.
It may be the toughest and deadliest period of the virus. We must set aside politics and finally face this pandemic as one nation. One nation. I know, speaking of unity, can sound to some like a foolish fantasy these days. I know the forces that divide us are deep and they are real. But I also know they are not new.
Joe Biden said he will be a president for all Americans.
I pledge this to you. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans. And I promise you, I will fight as hard for those who did not support me as for those who did.
After more than 40 years in U.S. politics, Joe Biden was sworn in as the President of the United States on January the 20th. His administration starts in one of the worst moments in history for this country, a pandemic that has hit the U.S. the hardest, an economic crisis, growing unemployment, and deeper political polarization than ever. Besides being the Vice President of Barack Obama, what else we do know about Biden? Cristina Escobar has the story.
A veteran of U.S. politics, a senator for 36 years, the man who touts himself as a consensus builder, and to prove it, he has on record close friendships with the likes of Storm Thurmond, an open segregationist, and John McCain, a deceased Vietnam War general, the epitome of what the Republican Party is. Biden is being described as an old-fashioned politician, and nostalgic of how things used to be in Washington when there was some sort of bipartisan bridge. Born into a middle-class Catholic Irish family in Pennsylvania, Biden suffered a stutter and bullying due to his speech impairment. His family moved to Delaware when he was little, and he grew up to get a college degree at the Syracuse University. He was one of the youngest senators in the U.S. High Chamber when he was elected in 1973, seen as an uprising star after beating a longtime Republican. He lost his wife and one daughter in an accident and then remarried to Dr. Jill Biden, a college professor who will now be the First Lady while still teaching in public education. Seen as too moderate for some or too progressive by others, Joe Biden had a particularly important role during the hearing to confirm the Supreme Court Judge Clarence Thomas in 1991. Thomas' confirmation hearings sparked controversy due to accusations that he had sexually harassed attorney Anita Hill, who came forward to tell her story. Although Biden opposed the confirmation, he's been accused of being part of a cohort of senators that embarrassed and humiliated Hill. Years later, Biden said he has regrets.
A really notable woman, Anita Hill, professor, showed the courage of a lifetime, talking about her experience being harassed by Clarence Thomas. We knew a lot less about the extent of harassment back then, over 30 years ago. But she paid a terrible price. She was abused through the hearing. She was taken advantage of. Her reputation was attacked. I wish I could have done something. I opposed Clarence Thomas' nomination. I voted against him. But I also realized there was a real and perceived problem the committee faced. There were a bunch of white guys. No, I mean it sincerely. A bunch of white guys hearing this testimony in the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Finally, the Senate confirmed Thomas by a vote of 52-48, and he is considered one of the most conservative judges of the Supreme Court and one that speaks very little without opening his mouth to ask a question in over a decade. As a senator, Biden voted in favor of the Iraq War and has said he's against regime change, but is an open supporter of providing non-military support to opposition movements. He has shown support for women's rights and abortion and supports governmental funding to find new energy sources. After unsuccessfully trying to secure the Democratic Party nomination in 1988 and 2008, Biden was finally picked by former President Barack Obama to serve as his vice president. And he repeated as vice president for a second term. As vice president, Biden accompanied Barack Obama in the reform of the health system, as well as a shift to soft-powered and non-conventional warfare on countries considered enemies by the U.S. Biden has a relatable blue-collar personal history that has triggered support from the weakened American middle class, and while campaigning, he recalled his memories of seeing his father unemployed. He was accused of inappropriate behavior in campaign acts by several women, and he excused himself, saying times had changed. When Biden takes the oath of office, he will be the oldest person ever sworn in as U.S. president. That's why many people have placed their hope in his vice president Kamala Harris as the probable Democratic candidate for the next term. Joe Biden, the politician with a reputation of building bridges where no one thought was possible, will have now the opportunity to lead a country bitterly divided on almost every issue, from vaccination to climate change. His top priority will be to tackle a pandemic that has demonstrated the failure of the US health system, incapable of facing a virus that has now caused over 400,000 deaths.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Cuba hopes to produce 100 million doses of its Soberana or Sovereign 0.2 vaccine against COVID-19 in 2021 and immunize its entire population this year, according to the director of the Finlay Vaccine Institute in Havana. The country is working on 4 vaccine candidates, demonstrated its huge scientific development despite its limited economy at the U.S. blockade and sanctions.
Planning to produce up to 100 million doses of Soberana 0.2. That is the vaccine that is more advanced than now. If everything goes well for us, this year we will have the entire Cuban population vaccinated. Tourists will have the option, if they want, to get vaccinated in Cuba as well.
And Panama has launched its COVID-19 vaccination campaign after a first batch of over 12,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech jab arrived in the country, which has seen the biggest number of virus cases in Central America.
It is obviously health workers, especially doctors and nurses, technicians directly involved in the pandemic, and that's how we're going to go. That's why it's called the continuous vaccination strategy, conditional on deliveries by the different laboratories.
Hopefully the greatest quantity of vaccines possible arrives in the country. The whole country has to be vaccinated so that there is a better future for all the people of Panama.
The Vatican opens its door on Wednesday to 25 homeless people to be vaccinated against COVID-19. The initiative, endorsed by Pope Francis and supervised by the Papal Almoner, will continue in the next few days and weeks to vaccinate all the poor and homeless people that are either living outdoors on shelter near the Vatican or in shelter run by various Catholic orders and charities. Pope Francis received the first shot on the coronavirus vaccine on January the 14th. The Pope has advocated that everyone gets the vaccine, calling it an ethical option performed not only for one's own health, but for the lives of others. The Vatican launched its vaccination program last week, administering the Pfizer vaccine. Japan has been witnessing a worsening COVID-19 situation nationwide as new virus variants grow rampant across a number of prefectures. The country has reported nearly 5,000 new infections and 28 cases in a critical condition during the past 24 hours, with the total number of confirmed cases now surpassing 332,000. The Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare recorded over 100 coronavirus fatalities on Tuesday, representing a record daily high. Meanwhile, Shizuoka Prefecture in central Japan detected 3 infections of the new coronavirus variant, first detected in the United Kingdom. Hundreds of Hondurans who were attempting to cross several nations on foot in order to reach the United States are back in their home country after being violently removed from Guatemala. The migrants arrived at the border with Honduras in a military truck on Tuesday. The massive caravan left San Pedro Sula last Friday and advanced to Vado Hondo, a small Guatemalan town where the group was dispersed by security forces, who launched tear gas against them. The people making up the caravan stressed they lost everything to the hurricanes that hit Central America in November and are fleeing the economic crisis and ongoing violence in their home country. The strong police repression forcing them back to Honduras has been criticized by human rights and migrant rights organizations in Guatemala, Honduras, and beyond. Local traders took to the streets of Colombian capital Bogotá this Wednesday to protest against the curfew imposed by the mayor's office in the face of rising number of COVID-19 infections. The demonstrators marched towards the house of Mayor Claudia Lopez, north of Bogotá, demanding more organization in the implementation of the curfew.
We are not asking anything from the Colombian state. We are simply demanding to be allowed to work, since we are the only ones who are giving sustainability to the capital's economy. We are here because we are demanding coherence from Bogotá Mayor Claudia Lopez and this district administration. They should not forget about the formal trade of small and medium-sized merchants. We ask for no more improvisation and in how they decree curfews, which should be done in a planned way, not in a disorganized way as they are doing.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador expressed his agreement with newly installed U.S. President Joe Biden's priorities this Wednesday and wished him success in his presidency.
Themes are very important: the pandemic, economic recovery, and migration. And of course, I am wishing President Biden good luck on his job. So we do want cooperation, but we want our sovereignty to be respected. We have not accepted any military cooperation. We do not want our relationship with the United States to be based on that.
And on the day Joe Biden was inaugurated as President of the United States, Cubans expressed hope that this administration will trigger better relations, as promised after the major confrontations and tightening of the blockade and sanctions by former President Donald Trump. According to the Cuban Foreign Ministry, the Trump administration stepped up sanctions against Cuba and cost the island some $20 billion. Biden has said that he wants to reverse the damage caused by Trump and bring back some of Obama's policies to normalize ties, including allowing Cuban Americans to visit and send money to their families.
With Joe Biden, relations can improve just like when Obama was in power. I believe that there will be an opening and that Cubans will become closer to Americans, who are each not to blame for their presidents, of course.
Let's hope he follows the policies of President Barack Obama, because Trump was pretty bad in this time as ruler of that power, and we hope that we will maintain the best possible relations. We hope President Biden will not restrict remittances, that he will allow travel here and that people may invest here. That is normal. It might happen, and if it does, it is good for our people, because we will have a moment to breathe.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Malian security forces fired tear gas at dozens of demonstrators in the capital Bamako this Wednesday during a rally against France's military role in the country. The protesters, who were in Central Square in the West African city, fled before the gas canisters fired by a large number of police and security forces. Police roadblocks also stopped motorbike convoys of protesters, making the way towards the square from different parts of the city. Bamako City Hall had earlier banned the protests against the French military, citing COVID-19 restrictions. France, Mali's former colonial ruler, first intervened in the country in 2013 with the pretext of driving back jihadist forces advancing on Bamako. It now has over 5,000 troops deployed across Africa's arid Sahel region as part of its anti-jihadist force. But the French military presence in Mali is frequently criticized, and activists stage occasional demonstrations in Bamako against French troops. Tensions flared earlier this month when several residents in the village of Bonti said about 20 people in a wedding party had been killed in a strike by a helicopter, while French forces claimed they had carried out an airstrike on jihadists using a fighter jet.
We organized this event on January the 20th, not only to celebrate the feast of our army, but to reiterate our support and confidence in our national army. Today, we have understood that the authority needs popular support more than confrontation with the people. It is in this logic that we have decided to postpone today's activity, but we are going to continue the fight in a different way and with authority. France's strategy is to divide in order to reign, and it is this strategy that is being applied, and we have understood who it wants to divide, the people and their leaders. It wants to put them back to back, whereas we want national unity. So, as we have understood this strategy, we are not going to lend our flank so that today there will be repression.
Algerians are calling on France to acknowledge its crimes after French President Emmanuel Macron announced that he will take symbolic acts to appease memories of the Algerian war and reconcile the two countries. However, the French leader has stressed he will not issue the apology expected by Algiers in reaction to a long-awaited report by French historian Benjamin Stora.
I think that it is up to the Algerian diplomacy to move forward and to denounce this position, because France is considered one of the worst of colonialism. It has tortured and persecuted, in particular by carrying out nuclear tests on the Algerian people. As Algerians, we must denounce this position, and France must recognize its crimes, murders, torture, and forced displacements of the Algerian people. Concerning what Macron says and the important crimes of France in Algeria, we as Algerians must have a unified position between the people and the government against Macron and France to force them to recognize the crimes committed in Algeria, the very great crimes, the crimes against humanity without precedent in the world. We know that in our country there are men and fighters from the Algerian War of Independence who died and sacrificed themselves for this country. The rest does not interest me. Whether France recognizes or not, it is their business.
This Wednesday, Indian farmers enter another round of negotiations with the government in New Delhi regarding the 3 agricultural laws they have been protesting against for 3 weeks. This is the 10th round of talks, with earlier discussions failing to lead to any firm conclusions. Protesting rural workers are demanding the rollback of the new agricultural laws, which straight favor big corporations and will make family-owned small farms unviable, eventually leaving them landless. Protesters have occupied key highways around the capital to demonstrate against the laws for nearly 2 months. India's Supreme Court has temporarily delayed the implementation of the laws and appointed a 4-member panel to hear farmers' objections in the face of huge mobilizations. Iran promised Wednesday it will fulfill its commitments under the 2015 nuclear deal if the United States, under its new administration, returned to the deal and did so too.
If the new U.S. administration regarding their commitments under UN Security Council Resolution 2231 sign a paper, they will see a signature from Iran in return, nothing more. If they issue an executive order, they will see an order issued in Iran in return, nothing more. If they effectively carry out their commitments, they can assume that there will be effective implementation of commitments at this end too. Back and fulfill their commitments, we will fulfill our commitments.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.